give you the mighty van-halen!
Oh, look at all the people here tonight!
It is now officially 51-50 time!
You ever speak to me like that again, better be wearing a cup.
Baby steps.
One break, I'm in up!
Let's everybody take your positions, please. Here we go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, rolling. Dave!
And
Dave!
Unchained!
welcome to Dave and Dave Unchained, a Van Halen podcast. I'm Dave.
And I am Dave.
And we are at episode 45, Dave, and still alive. What can I say? We are into the fall. The summer is gone like our youth, Dave, as we are we are treading toward 50 as we are losing the 40s. They're in the rearview mirror at this point, and we're headed straight to the big 5-0.
Gonna milk it as long as we can.
That's right. That's right. I spoke to somebody this week that says, you turn 40, whether you're 42, you're 45, you're 47, you tell people you're 40 until you're 50. I was like, all right. So
I never had a problem telling people my age. To me, it was just another victory lap.
yeah, look, I tell you, as a journalist who has to ask people their age all the time, okay, one of the worst parts of my job, because people react in the worst way. They go crazy. It could be a 85-year-old man. It could be a 23-year-old woman. I've interviewed women that are like 25 years old that like are offended that I asked their age. They're 25 years old. It's so strange. I never get a good reaction, whether it's a man or a woman these days. Anyway, forget the semantics. We got bigger fish to fry because holy crap, the shit hit the fan. As we enter into the deep dark hole that is the Van Halen news.
Van Halen.
And wow, things really did go a little kablooey. So let's start off with the tip top of news, which is David Lee Roth dropped a bombshell. David is headed toward Las Vegas. He announced his Vegas residency as we predicted. He's going to be playing the House of Blues at Mandalay Bay from January 8th, 10th, 11th. And then he skips all the way to March 18th, 20th, 21st, 25th, 27th, and 28th. To quote Mr. Roth, "A weekend with me is interactive, way beyond just music. It starts with the best food on earth. The fellas smoke their 3 cigarettes for the year, and we all stay up way past our bedtime." So Dave has a new band.
I see you've been practicing.
Yeah, well, I've been listening to him. He's been in my ears for all this few weeks here because I've been listening to all his interviews to prep for our monthly podcast, and I've been listening to his podcast nonstop. And
God bless you.
Let me tell you, I am well versed in Mr. Roth at this point. So Dave has a new band, okay? He's featuring 3 guitarists, one being Chris Goretti from New Jersey. And he has a bassist and a drummer. And Sirius XM, Dave, if you look at the poster for DLR Rocks Vegas, right? There's a little Sirius XM logo on the bottom like they're a sponsor. Which, to me, I think an announcement is coming about Dave launching a show on Sirius XM. That's not a fact. That's just my projection. But I think we're going to see that happen. I think we're going to see the California sessions come out at some point. My prediction is it comes out somewhere around the time of the residency. Maybe like January, February or something. That's just a prediction. Dave is going full throttle as he comes out of the gate, and he's running until the gas tank is empty because I think Dave knows he's in the fourth quarter of his career and he's down 10 points. And I think he's going fuller at Dave. I really think he's like, all right, let's do it. Now, a lot of people have brought up the fact, all right, well, if Dave is going out on his own solo thing, why the hell isn't he starting up the Eat 'em and Smile band? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's too expensive, plus Dave wants the spotlight for himself. He's not going to share it with Billy, Steve, and Greg, and I think he wants to come out with a hot young band. These guys apparently are like in their 20s. Now, let's remember, Dave's turning 65 in October. So, he's a senior citizen. He could be their grandfather probably, which is totally crazy. The room that he's playing, the House of Blues, holds about 1,500 people. It's sort of an intimate venue. And the good news is Dave and I are going. We are going to be celebrating our 50th birthday together. We are going on January 10th and 11th. And we are going to be joined by Midwest Ron and Ron Pio. So it is going to be Dave and Dave with Ron and Ron, completely and totally unchained. So what do you make of this news, Dave?
Well, it certainly makes up for the lack of news we had last month.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, very exciting. Looks like he's dipping his toes in.
Very excited.
All right. Or maybe Mandalay Bay is dipping their toes in just to see how the turnout is.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's very weird, right? It's spotty. It's like, a few dates in January, a few dates in March.
Right.
So it's almost like they squeezed them into some openings there.
Right. That could be.
Right, but let's see. Maybe this will be a more permanent thing next year if he gets the people coming in the door.
Yeah, well, Dave promises a full-on rock show. In his promotion for this residency, he made no bones about what he's doing. This is not a mambo slammer deal. This is a full-on rock band, and he is going out hardcore with all the Van Halen songs, and he hasn't done a solo show in 13 years, Dave. So this is really crazy. I was listening to his podcast today, and if you listen to the new one, or the last two, I should say, it's like Vegas heavy. So he's saying crazy raw things like, 3 times a day at the Elvis Buffet on the third slice of key lime pie is when you head to the Roth show. Las Vegas, where time evaporates. 4K for your booty. Mind's working, butt's twerking. So this is the story. So we're going to get into, Dave did a whole mess of interviews, which Dave and I are going to break down each one, with just the Van Halen parts. He apparently is going to do a 20-song show, and he's going to have 26 songs in rotation. So that's apparently what he's doing. So what were you going to say, Dave? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that his approach is such that it's not going to sound like Van Halen live.
Right.
He's really making an effort to make it sound like the records, apparently.
Yep.
That's why he has 3 guitarists.
Yeah.
I just hope he applies that theory to his vocals as well. Because I remember at some point he had said, when he goes to a show, he likes it to sound like he remembers.
He did.
And meanwhile, I'm thinking, but you don't sing that way.
Right, yeah.
So I'm really curious to see how this whole thing sounds put together.
Plus, he got heavily criticized on the last Van Halen tour, and let's be honest, he needs a home run here. He needs a home run here. Like I said, bottom of the fourth quarter, and he's down 10 points. So he's really got to come out the box swinging. So listen to this. So Dave and I were exchanging all kinds of comments because we were listening to all these radio station interviews. Now, what was Dave doing? So prior to the tickets going on sale, he was hitting all these radio stations. Like, he came on KSLX, which is the Phoenix Classic Rock Station. I think it was on September 12th, and he does like an 8-minute interview in each one, just boiling down some of his comments that he made about Van Halen, because obviously that's what we're going to focus on, or else we go on all day about his little euphemisms. But he said this statement here, and this was probably the strongest interview. He said, "I am the face of Van Halen from this point on, most likely. I'm not sure what's happening with Ed, but probably not going to answer the bell this time. It's not my place to guess. And then when he was pushed about Ed's health, he says, I hear all the same rumors that you do, and it's not my place to guess. I thought that was really interesting, and the whole reason I think he's doing this Vegas residency, and he's been brimming to do this. You can tell, and I had mentioned in prior podcasts, and we talked about this, that you could just tell he's chomping at the bit. You know, he had things he wanted to do, and as we get into these interviews, all the seedlings that you get drips and drabs from these interviews, if you sew them together, you kind of paint the picture. I think Dave was on a contract for Van Halen. Now, what does that mean? Dave's in Van Halen. No. Dave's probably not in Van Halen, so let me explain how this works. When lead singer of Motley Crue, Vince Neil, left Motley Crue in the early 90s, he no longer became part of Motley Crue. When he came back in the late 90s, Vince comes back in the band from the public eye, but on paper, he's not in the band. He's a hired contractor, if you want to look at it that way, in the sense that maybe he gets a special stipend or whatever to be the lead singer of the band, but he is not like an owner of the company. Dave's probably in the same position with Van Halen. It's probably Alex and Ed. And listen, this is also why I think the Michael Anthony thing became contention, because Ed wanted it to be him and Alex. We're Van Halen. You're Alex Van Halen, I'm Eddie Van Halen, we're Van Halen, we own Van Halen, Van Halen is us, Van Halen is our last name, and that whole thing. And it became, that whole thing. So Mike is out, Dave is out, they got half the band down to just him and Alex. And, I don't know where Wolfie sits, I'm assuming he probably gets a salary.
No, I'll bet you he's an owner.
Really?
Just a smaller owner.
Just a smaller share.
Because you got to remember, they have like some kind of LLC or something like that. And don't they call it like the Three Twins or something like that? So this is a way
the Three
for
Twins.
Wolf.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a way for Wolf to get some money.
Right. Yeah. And he's a smaller percentage owner. Yeah. And I'm sure Gary was contracted out. And I have to remember, I think when Sam came into the band, he was I don't know if he was a full owner or he was a 25% share, according to what he said he was, right? I don't know.
Well, Sam's no idiot.
No, I know.
I'm sure he came in. Yeah, because I remember they had another. They always would create a new company every time somebody new came into the band.
That's right,
It was like Yes Up 2 or something like that. I forget. But anyway, regardless, I think you're right in terms of, Dave had something going on and, the general consensus was his hands were always tied.
Yes.
His hands were either tied or he was waiting around for the next thing to happen.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and, he's not going to rock the boat because...
Right. He was waiting for something to happen. And we're going to get to this because if you get the dribs and drabs of the Van Halen comments from all the interviews and you string them together, you get the picture. So now, according to the Phoenix thing, he's using Van Halen's road crew and he's using Van Halen's equipment, which means he can't be on too bad of terms with the brothers, because it seems like from this outset that they can't do anything. And we're going to get deeper into that later when we discuss Ed, but it seems like Van Halen can't work. So Dave is working. So for him to come out and make that statement that he's the face of Van Halen from here forward, the most likely leaves a little door open. So, I don't know. And he says Ed's not answering the bell. That sounds dark.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So, he knows more than he lets on.
Oh, God, of course. Let's
I'd go all in on that Vegas bet.
Oh, yeah.
But he's also not going to say anything because he respects Ed's privacy.
Right, of
course.
But
basically, don't hold your breath for a Van Halen tour or album or anything to happen in the near future.
No. I tell you, nothing in 2019 and nothing in 2020 easy. The only other thing is the DJ from the Phoenix radio station, who, by the way, worked very hard. He had a very small window, and he pressed very hard, and he was polite, and he handled himself well. But he asked about the Eat 'em and Smile band, And Dave completely ignored that comment and just went forward. That said that nothing more came out of there. Then he went to Danny Bonaducci and Sarah.